right. Good morning, Buckeye Nation, and welcome to the Morning Scoop. You're listening here on Saturday, December 3rd, and it is, I will say, and I think I speak for all of Ohio State fans when I say it is a great day to be an Ohio State Buckeye. Would you agree with that sentiment there, Bill?
Yeah, definitely. Ohio State fans, I think we're a little premature in the hatred of Ryan Day and needing him to be fired. How much better they're going to be without CJ Stroud. But now you have to go root for those two guys now, I guess. So it kind of puts you in a quandary. Yeah. Unless you're just like, I didn't really mean that. I love Ryan. And then they get blown out by Georgia in the first round. It's like, now I hate him again. I hate him again. It's just the fan roller coaster is so much fun to watch. I've enjoyed it for the past 20 years.
I will say, I think that's exactly how it happens. I was talking to TJ earlier in the week, and I said exactly that. I'm like, if you're out there calling for Ryan Day's head, if you're out there saying that this team doesn't deserve a spot in the playoff or, whatever, then, I would, in the comments, if that's you, go ahead and tell us who you're going to root for in the college football playoff, because it damn sure better not be Ohio State, in my opinion.
Yeah, you
ride or die with your team.
Yeah, well, John Cooper said it best, man, a long time ago. He said, man, the Ohio State fans are with you win or tie. And I think he over-exaggerated the tie part because they're going to hate you if you tie too.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. The Michigan loss was a bad loss, but it wasn't a season-ending loss as we saw last night. You're not out, you're out, and it's not over till it's over. Could they get blown out in the first round by Georgia? Yes. Can they beat Georgia and then go on and beat Michigan again for the title? Yes. And in that case, this will be the most glorious year in the history of Ohio State football. So calm down. Let the season play out. As I've been saying, since the minute that Michigan game ended, let everything play out. There's plenty of time for you to hate Ryan Day and hate CJ Stroud. There will be time for that. It's not now. Now's not the time. There will be time for that.
Yeah. And you give us a good segue here, because obviously there's still a lot of football even still to be played both last night and tonight and today throughout the day before we get into Selection Sunday and what that's ultimately going to mean for Ohio State, whether it's seeding or what have you. And then also, we have on here just some quick notes on the transfer portal. I know there's been a ton of players from Texas A&M announcing, some former Buckeye commits and targets. So we'll hit on a little bit of that. But before we dive into everything, just make sure you like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Of course, with the college football playoff and everything coming up, all of us here at Buckeye Scoop are going to be ramping up to get you some more content as soon as we can. So be sure to check out the BuckeyeScoop.com website, as well as the Ask the Insiders board. I know Bill is very active on the Ask the Insiders board, so you can always feel free to ask questions to any of us there. But like I said, subscribe to the YouTube channel. All of our video content will be released there. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into everything. So Kyle Whittingham, I think the after or post-game interview was fantastic when he just sits next to Urban Meyer and he says, Ryan Day, you're welcome. So he knew, everybody knew what that game meant. And, it's funny. It was funny. I was on Twitter because that's usually where I go during games. And as soon as USC went up, I think it was 17-3. Everybody starts freaking out. And everybody's, this game's over. We got to root for the Wildcats tomorrow. That's our only chance. And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, let's wait a minute. The first game was 14 points at multiple different times in the first half. And we all know what happened there. But as you're watching that game, what were your kind of thoughts as far as, Caleb Williams when it comes to Heisman? Obviously, he got a little hobbled. But, I mean, what really happened, with Lincoln Riley and that play calling?
Utah's really good. I mean, and I don't know if people realize just how good Utah is. I mean, that's really not a team you ever want to play. I mean, they're so physical. They're so well coached. Kyle Whittingham is a great coach. And, Utah beat him once already. So it's not like, and if you look at the gambling line on the game, the line was like 2.5 or 3. It wasn't 23. It is an even game. So, it is what it is. I mean, the better team won. There's no doubt that the better team won that game. They beat them twice now, so obviously they're a better
Yeah.
team than USC. So I picked Utah in the game, and it's not saying it now. It's recorded for
Mm-hmm.
posterity on the Insider Report. I took Utah in this game. I thought it was a tough hill to climb for USC coming off that emotional UCLA win, then the emotional Notre Dame win, horrible scheduling, how you play it that they don't do it that way in the SEC, and they win titles in the SEC. They're not playing a big game in week 12. So I thought this would be 3 straight weeks. You got to climb back on that horse and be at your best. And you had to be at your very best. You couldn't even be like kind of good, like Ohio State found out last week. You can't be kind of good when you're in these championship games. You have to be at your very best. And USC was not at their very best. When Caleb Williams gets hobbled, then the party's over. I mean, that's as much of a one-man team as I've seen in a long time. I mean, he's a great player. He should get the Heisman.
Yeah, I agree.
He's the best player in the country. And, no doubt there. But he was pretty much a one-man team. They were not good defensively. They brought in a lot of transfers. It's hard to build a team with guys that don't know each other. It's an all-star team. I think Lincoln Riley did a fantastic job. And
yeah.
If somebody wanted to name him coach of the year this year, I'm not going to argue with that. I mean, there's no way anybody thought this team would be where they are today.
I mean, what was their record last year? They were 4-8, right?
They've been terrible for 4 or 5 years. They were terrible the whole Clay Helton era. And I always thought this year was just going to be a lay the foundation year for Lincoln Riley. I thought 6-6, 7-5, but to get where they did, I mean, it's a heck of a year. Heck of a year. They got beat by a better team last night. And, I learned a long time ago, there was a high school coach that I heard him speak to his team before a game, a high school playoff game, when they were not supposed to win. And he told his team, they're the better team. We're not the better team tonight. But you know what? We only have to be the better team for 3 hours. We don't have to be the better team for the past 15 weeks. We have to be the better team for 3 hours. And we can do that. And that's really what championship football comes down to. As we saw last week with Ohio State, Michigan. So Utah was the better team last night. And they were the better team, and they deserved to win. And that's what football is all about.
Yeah, and you said it. I mean, all it takes is 3 hours. And
that's it.
Everybody from Purdue. I mean, we said it earlier in the year with the Northwestern game. It's like you have to expect that team's going to come and they're going to be ready to play, and they're going to expect that they can and will win the game. I mean, that's the goal, right?
Ohio State and Michigan. Do I think Ohio State has more talent than Michigan? Yes, I do. I thought so last year too. Do the star rankings and the All-American honors, do those mean anything once the ball goes on the tee? No, they don't mean anything. It doesn't mean a thing. I mean, today I'm still going to tell you I think Ohio State is more talented than Michigan. If they meet in the playoffs, I'm going to pick Ohio State to win. I think they're the more talented team. But, man, all those star rankings and stuff, it doesn't really matter once the ball goes on the tee.
Yeah, I mean, you got 3 stars in Chris Olave that can take over a game, at any given point. So, and, to Kyle Whittingham's credit, I mean, he is a fantastic coach. I always forget that he's an Urban Meyer, tree kind of guy.
He's a great coach. No one will ever mention him when you talk about the best coaches in college football, but I will, and I have in the past. Talked about how great of a coach that guy is. And that was part of the reason why I picked Utah last night was I love Kyle Whittingham, and I love him in a big game setting. And I thought this game set up so well for him, going against the Heisman Trophy winner and the powerhouse of USC. I thought it just set up perfectly for him to sell that to his kids.
Yeah. And I agree, and because you just lastly mentioned it there with Caleb Williams winning the Heisman. I think there was a lot of talk last night about, did he hand it back to CJ? And I said, it seems like everybody's playing hot potato with the Heisman at this point in the season, but I think it's rightfully in Caleb Williams' hands at this point. And
the only thing would be, I mean, if Max Duggan, down 20 in the fourth quarter, and he throws 3 touchdown passes in the last 7 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see it. I could also see if Georgia wins big, like maybe Stetson Bennett gets a Lifetime Achievement Award. I could
Yeah.
see it. And I've got a bet on him, so I'm obviously hoping for that. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the award goes to Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
I think he deserves it. Now, if they want to misvote and hand it to Stetson Bennett, I will cash that ticket and be happy.
Well, I've always been, I've always wondered why he hadn't gotten more, I guess, love for it this year. Given obviously last year, and I mean, he's got great yards. I think it's just he doesn't.
Amazing this year. His
Yeah,
stats are tremendous.
but he only
They
has
just
16 touchdowns. I think that's the part
yeah
that kills him. At least in that conversation.
yeah. I if he went for him to win that award, I wasn't looking at
Hmm.
Stetson Bennett put up better stats than everybody. I was looking at that everybody falls apart, and they turned to him as a Lifetime Achievement
Yeah.
Award. But that's not going to happen. Caleb's going to get it, and he deserves it.
Yeah, and I feel like most of the votes are even submitted before any of these games, anyways. So,
With me.
at that point, a lot of people were probably already on the Caleb Williams train,
Yeah,
submit their votes,
yeah,
and it didn't even matter. So,
yeah.
but it
No,
is, but
no
it is
argument.
worth mentioning for sure because I think you're right on with that point, and it's a good bet. I'm sure that I'm sure you got some pretty good odds on that as well.
Yeah, I think it was like 18-1 or
Oh
something. I
yeah,
mean, I'll cash it. I'll cash it if it comes around, but I'm not expecting it, and I don't think. I think Caleb's very deserving.
yeah. But there is still the game to play. There's
Yeah.
obviously a few more games today with TCU and Kansas
Yes.
State. You've got the SEC championship, LSU Georgia, which I mean, barring and I mean Georgia's in no matter what. I
All three of
think
these
that's
are
good.
in, and I felt all along that the 3 undefeated teams were in. I thought Ohio State's only shot was USC to lose
Mm,
last night. I didn't think Ohio State could jump TCU unless they got beat 48-3 or something. But TCU losing, 31-24 or something, they were going to get in over Ohio State. So Ohio State, I thought their only chance to cash was last night, and they cashed it.
yeah, I mean, I thought that was the best. I mean, obviously, a two-loss team would clearly drop behind an Ohio State
Yeah,
there in that sense, but
yeah.
I thought that TCU had the better chance of actually losing. I didn't
Yeah.
I had USC actually winning, but I felt more confident that TCU would lose, and shades of 2014 Ohio State sneaking
Yeah.
in over at TCU is very possible
Yeah.
regardless of the score.
Yeah, I had TCU losing as well to Kansas State. And I didn't think it would help Ohio State. I really didn't. I thought their only hope was last
Hmm.
night, and so now we don't have to worry about it. I mean, they're in. I think it's going to be a 1-4 matchup with Ohio State at the 4 spot, Georgia at the 1 spot. I don't think they're going to want to rematch with Ohio State and Michigan in the semis,
Mm-hmm.
but they might. They might. Who knows?
It's a lot
They
of
can do
money.
anything do. They can do anything they want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but realistically, I think we're looking at Georgia, Ohio State, and then TCU, Michigan. I think that's what we're looking at in the semis. But the games haven't been played today, and they're
Right.
probably playing. They're probably playing for seeding today.
So no Alabama sneaking in as
No
has
chance.
been widely talked about over
I,
over a TCU team.
I didn't think there was ever a path for Bama. No, I think no path. I thought they were dead going into this week, and I think they're dead right now. I don't care if TCU loses 81-2. They're not putting Bama in, so they're out. Now the field is set. It's all worried about seeding now.
See, I won't ever say never with the SEC, with the selection committee, and especially with Nick Saban. If
Yeah.
I'm looking at them and I'm looking at the best teams, right, and I'm saying,
Oh, if we're looking at best teams now we're talking a
yeah,
different.
see,
I mean, you've got almost. I always feel like you have like a 33% factor. You got 33% is you want the best teams. 33% is you want the most deserving teams.
hmm
Sometimes not be the best team. And then there's 33% you want to be fair to everybody. So you've got all that intertwined with, and there's no set rules.
yeah,
You got guys in the room, they can put who they want in. I mean, they can put Texas Tech in if they want. And what are you going to say?
yeah,
It's their
right,
committee, their game. There's no rules. So, but I always looked at it as be fair, the most deserving, and the best team. And you're trying to weave all that together. But if you're looking at the best team, Alabama's in. I mean, Alabama would be a huge favorite over Michigan. Michigan could end up with the number 1 seed here. But nobody would take Michigan over Bama.
Look, all
But
I'm saying,
they deserve to be there. And if you're
yes,
being fair,
I agree.
there's a lot of components to this, where, it's a lot easier in the NFL. Like when my Steelers only win 8 games and the Ravens win 12, the Ravens are going. Can't get voted in. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? I wish they voted in baseball, and then they could vote my Pirates in every once in a while because they can't win their way in. But college football, you don't really win your way in. You kind of get voted your way in, which is so stupid. And it's the game we love, but it is what it is.
Look, all I'm going to say is money talks.
Yeah.
And if you can, and if you have a possibility there, if you're the committee for, Alabama, Georgia semifinal, Ohio State, Michigan semifinal, and then Big Ten, SEC, championship game, playoff essentially.
That would be money. I mean, there'd be a lot of money there, but they're not doing that. Bama's dead.
Well, sorry to all the Alabama fans out there, but you can go ahead and just chalk it up there. Bill Greene has made his announcement, and it is as it is. So
yep.
But there's some other obviously happenings right now, and I know we talked a little bit before we started this, but in regards to the transfer portal and a lot of the kids that have been kind of announcing that they're planning to go into the transfer portal, including some former Ohio State commits that decommitted, some former Ohio State targets, obviously, and a lot of them from Texas A&M, which we saw coming. I don't think that's a huge surprise to most people. I've seen a ton of Alabama kids transferring as well, and maybe buried on the depth chart, what have you. But some 5 stars and some names definitely to kind of keep an eye on. I'm curious, kind of your thoughts just on how the transfer portal is impacting this time of year specifically, and what Ohio State should be looking for if and when it does come time to go to the portal.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has an impact. I mean, if you look, USC's built that, powerhouse that they had this year, top 10 team. They built that team through the transfer portal last year. So it can be done. A lot of names going in now, but I think the time to really look at that portal is when all the games are done. You know what I mean? And I think even if you look at Ohio State, a kid who might have been on the fence of jumping into the portal, buried on the depth chart at Ohio State, he might have jumped today. If USC wins that game, or waited till the selection show. They're not jumping now. You know what I mean? They're going to stay. They got a chance to be a part of a national champion. So that creates a lot of iffiness here. So until all the games are played, and then that portal just opens wide, then Plus, when you look at it from an Ohio State perspective, they don't really know what this roster is going to look like. This roster could look dramatically different on February 1 than it does today. Now, do they think DeJuan Jones and Paris Johnson will be tackles for them next year? No, they're not that stupid. They know that's not going to happen. So if you're talking portal to me today, early December, man, you got to start looking at tackles right now. And the thing is, it's not as easy as just, there's an offensive tackle in there from Kansas or something. Let's go get him. Well, he's got to be good. He's got to be better than what you have. You know what I mean? And the way the portal works now, you almost have to promise these guys that they're going to be starters because somebody else will.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then, what I've always liked about Mark Pantoni and how he does his business is instead of just popping the film in on little Jimmy, who's in the portal, he's going to do his research and he's going to find out first, why is little Jimmy in the portal? There's a reason why little Jimmy's in that portal right now. And I think Mark Pantoni is going to want to know why he's in that portal before he delves into bring him in for a visit, check out the film. No, you got to find out why. There's a reason. It might be a reason that you don't want that kid on your team. Okay, so that would be the first order of business. And then you've got, all those people in the portal. I mean, who can play? Can any of them play? Then you dial it down to the maybe 15 or
Yeah.
20 kids that you really want to look at. And again, I don't think you're going to get someone to transfer into Ohio State to be a backup. You know what I mean? I think anybody in that portal, they want to go start somewhere. They want to get their film out so they can eventually head to the NFL. An interesting point to me is going to be these A&M guys.
Mm-hmm.
These A&M guys all got paid, but you don't get paid up front. Okay? So I'm wondering now if these guys only got 1/4 or 1/5 of what was promised to them through NIL. Do you have to make that up now? Or are they willing to say, oh, I got paid last year, but I want to play for free now? I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
I don't look for those A&M kids to transfer somewhere that there isn't already an NIL promise for them. That's hard for me to believe because there's no way A&M paid them all that money up front. You've got to earn that over your 4 or 5 year career there. So they might have got a first hit cash, and I can't believe
Might have been a good one still,
What's that?
That it might have been a good first hit still.
Yeah,
With
I'm sure it was, but when you see a guy go to the NFL and start making money, they don't ever play for free. So that would be my worry with all these A&M guys. Where are they at in terms of NIL? What are they expecting? What are they looking for up front? And I don't think Ohio State's going to play that game.
Yep.
There are NIL opportunities at Ohio State for the best players, as we've seen. Guys are doing really well at Ohio State with NIL. But to think that someone from A&M is going to get the same promise they got when they were a freshman heading into A&M, that's not going to happen at Ohio State. It will happen somewhere else for them, but not at Ohio State.
So, and I'm just going to drop the name because you mentioned a good point with Pantoni and evaluating a guy, why are they in the portal, etc. But the first name, obviously, that came to my mind with that was, of course, Elias Ricks. And that decision, which, Buckeye Nation was very harsh on, but obviously seems to have been the right one, given that he didn't play hardly at all at Alabama. So, again, I've said it all year. I have a lot of trust in the staff and their decisions. But, when it comes to that, especially and looking even at former commits or former, targets of Ohio State and, do you even look back to those guys, or is it more of like a Dijon Johnson situation where, he's committed, he leaves, and you got to, make a strong point to Ryan Day that you're serious about coming back before he's even going to consider it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, when there's baggage, they're just not going to do that. If you're talking Jonah Jackson, who wants to leave Rutgers because he's sick of losing 8-9 games a year and he wants to play on a team that's going to win every week. Sure, you take that kid in a minute. He's a great player. He's not leaving Rutgers because of issues that, he wants to win. Man, I want that guy on my team. Justin Fields wants to leave Georgia. He's buried there. He's not going to play. Yeah, heck yeah, I want that guy on my team. I'll take Justin Fields right now. So, but Ohio State has been very selective. I don't think you're going to see a Lincoln Riley situation where Ohio State brings in 10 to 12 portal kids. I think right now they know they're losing those tackles. And I think they know there's a lot of inexperience behind those tackles. So if there's a Jonah Jackson type who plays tackle, who jumps in the portal, Ohio State will be very active looking at that guy. And maybe two of that guy, if two of them happen to show up. I can tell you right now, that's an area I think they need to look at. As to every other spot on this team, you really got to see who comes back and who leaves before you start, looking. The bottom line is any guy you bring in has got to be better than what you have on your roster. And Ohio State recruits so well that 95% of the people in the portal are not better than what's on the Ohio State roster. So Ohio State will be selective, do their homework, and they usually hit when they take these transfer guys. They usually hit on them.
Yeah, and I think to your Jonah Jackson point too. I know there's a couple that I've kind of looked at and seen similar. Okay, that's probably why they're leaving. There's an offensive tackle from Stanford. I think Nebraska. I mean, there's a number of those kind of kids out there, and I think that's the more likely scenario than like a PJ Williams, freshman 5-star or whatever for Texas A&M that is leaving to that point too. So, and then the last thing I wanted to just get your thoughts on here was DJ Uyunglele. There's been rumors now, whether or not it actually happens, that he may transfer out west to like an Oregon, USC, what have you. If that were to happen, do you think that makes an impact on DJ, or I'm sorry, not DJ's, on Mateo's decision at the end of the day on where he's going to end up?
No, I don't. I think those are going to be totally independent decisions. If he wanted to be with his brother, he would have committed to Clemson 18 months ago, and he's never considered Clemson. Even when it looked like DJ was headed to being an NFL first-round pick as a quarterback, Mateo never really looked at Clemson. So I think those are totally independent decisions. And I think you've got a dad that's very involved there, Big Dave. And I think there was a time when Big Dave thought DJ was headed to being a multimillionaire NFL player, and that is not going to happen, I don't think. So I think in this situation, he's going to want Mateo in the absolute very best situation to develop him as an NFL football player. Not so much, hey, let's hang out with your brother. Mm-hmm. No. They're going to want Mateo in the very best situation, and that's why, I think Ohio State is right in this thing right now. I think would be Larry Johnson's history of developing defensive ends into millionaires.
And I'm sure it didn't hurt our chances watching that abysmal USC defense last night.
Yeah, and USC will tell them you can come in here and start as a freshman. You go to Ohio State, look at all those DNs they brought in, and defensive ends they will bring in. You're going to sit for a while. They're here. You'll start next year. You'll be a 3-and-out guy. There's ways to sell every angle, and these guys are, they're the greatest salesmen in the world for a reason, and they know what they're doing. So. Yeah, but I do think Ohio State is right in the Mateo Uyunglele sweepstakes, and I think Larry Johnson has a great relationship with Big Dave and with Mateo, and I won't be surprised at all if Ohio State gets that signature.
Well, let's here's to hoping. At least we still got a long way to go, I'm sure, with that recruitment, anyways, as you've mentioned a few times. So I will never count Larry Johnson out of any sort of conversation when it comes to that, and. I know he's got a great relationship with Mateo and Big Dave as well, and looking forward to hopefully seeing him in the scarlet and gray here come next fall. But that is going to do it for us here today on the Morning Scoop. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. As I mentioned at the top of the show, be sure to check out our BuckeyeScoop.com Ask the Insiders board, as well as subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can stay up to date with all the latest news, information, and content as soon as we release it, especially as Ohio State gears up for Selection Sunday, some seeding conversations, and where we're going to wind up in the college football playoff. So with that, Bill, as always, I appreciate you jumping on this morning and talking with me, and hope you enjoy the full slate of football games this afternoon, and we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, go Bucks.